Welcome back to ARMEDFORAGER. Today we're going to test out the Palmetto State Armory build kit for an AR-15 chambered in 223 Wylde. So this is the 18-inch barrel. Comes with that standard A2 birdcage muzzle device on the end there. As you see, I added a bunch of goodies to this, so we definitely have that SIG foregrip here. But let's test it out. Let's see how it functions and if there's any malfunctions. Right out the gate, I'm using this Winchester green tip, and I don't know if it's a light primer strike or what, but let's see. Light primer strike. Another light primer strike. Maybe it's just the green tip, maybe it's the ammunition. What I did was order that Palmetto State Armory AR-15 lower, strip lower, and then I got the 223 Wylde build kit, and so it included everything else. Seems like it's cycling and functioning okay, so it doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with the gas system or with the buffer system for that recoil and such, but it's throwing these light primer strikes, which that sucks. I was excited about this. Yeah, so 3 light primer strikes. Let's use some different ammunition. Right, let's use this ZSR. See if this does any better. The Winchester was also 5.56, not 223. Maybe it just needs to be broken in. Next is this XTech by PMC, and this is 55 grain full metal jacket. It's traveling at 3,120 feet per second. See if this does any better. Two malfunctions. And it is those light primer strikes. Great. All right, last but not least, there's that Frontier cartridge, and this is by Hornady. This is also 5.56, 55 grain. So this is traveling at 3240. I don't know, I lost count. There's about 2 or 3 there too. Well, seems to be the only malfunction, so I need to make some adjustments to this. So I think what I'll do is get a better hammer spring or make some adjustments in there. I suggest maybe just get a drop-in trigger for this, cut out all the fuss, and then this may be a great budget option. You kind of expect these types of things to happen with a very budget option for AR type rifles or pistols, but I guess, I don't know. I mean, come on, they could have done better. It's just a little bit less money than you would get if you build it yourself, opposed to getting a full complete rifle or firearm through them. But if it's in a kit, it should work. It should work, and you shouldn't have this type of thing going on. For anybody curious, yes, I cleaned it beforehand, and I did lube it up pretty well on the parts that needed the lube. But honestly, this is why you go out to the range. Test your firearms and make sure everything's functioning properly, especially if you need this for any type of range work, or maybe you're using it to protect your land from, you know, beasts, wild animals. You're gonna need this to function right. I'll get a drop-in trigger. Let's go that way with it. That's what I'm gonna do. I'll get a drop-in trigger. We'll see how this functions later on. I'm gonna give this one 2 out of 10 banana stickers, because I feel like PSA could have done way better. Those springs don't cost very much. They could have added a higher tension spring for this. Very disappointing to get out in the range with something like this and then realize that it doesn't work properly. With that new trigger, we'll see what happens. All right, so I'm back. It did take a while, so I got some different hardware on here, which is pretty cool. But I did change out those trigger springs for this JP Enterprises Enhanced Reliability AR Fire Control Spring Set. So this is supposed to be the ticket for light primer strikes. So let's see if it worked. Using a brand spanking new box of XTech, some PMC. This is 5.56. It's going 2,920 feet per second, 62 grain. All three had horrible light primer strikes. I kind of expected that. I wanted that spring set to work, but it was a lighter spring set. So I just assumed that was gonna be a terrible run at it. So what we're gonna do is get that drop-in trigger, or a heavier spring set, and we'll see how that works. All right, well, here we go again. It's a third try here. I do have a drop-in trigger on standby, and I really appreciate the drop-in triggers. I've never really had any issue with those, but the idea is that the hammer spring, the 3 springs that are associated with the trigger group, they're all gonna function reliably because it's a pack. Basically, you drop it in and then you don't have to worry about it or fuss with it. And that's been kind of my continued success story with drop-in triggers. And so I do have one on standby, but we're gonna check out this Wolf Heavy Spring, I believe is what it's called. So that's gonna force the hammer forward and hopefully reliably give us some kind of consistent expected result to where now it's gonna activate that primer and give us what we need. So this has been a continuing video. Again, this is our 3rd attempt here, but I did add a little bit of extra stuff here to this particular firearm. Just mentioning that to let you know that I didn't do much else to this as far as the internals, just the external stuff. So different sights, of course. I got some canted sights here. Got that magnified red dot. We got a laser and a light on here and a bipod. So let's get at it and we'll see how well this does. It is raining today, the Pacific Northwest, so it's a big rainforest basically. So I'm not gonna be out beyond this point. I am under a little shelter here, so hopefully we can make this thing ping. Yeah, so we're gonna use some Winchester, some XTech by PMC. We got them ZSR, and then the Hornady branded Frontier. Yeah, so Winchester 5.56, looking at 3,060 feet per second, 62 grain. Looking at 62 grain, 2,920 feet per second. Also 5.56, and the Frontier 5.56. Let's try a few XTech. Bolt held open? Yeah, that did it. Excellent. If you're interested in these sights at all, the magnifier, the red dot, some of these canted sights, so those are pretty sweet. I do have a couple of videos on those if you want to check those out and see what those are all about. And then we'll also leave some links in the description. These are actually really well put together sights. I do have affiliations with CV Life and Feyachi, and so you may wonder how biased my opinion is on that. And honestly, there is some sway as far as that goes, but at the same time, like, I'm gonna tell you if they suck, because I'm gonna be using these things. If you've watched any of my videos, you know that that's what this is kind of all about. Like, almost every firearm on this channel that's had an issue, we resolve it, we fix it, and then I tell you kind of the pros and cons of what's going on with it, so that you don't have to suffer as much as I do when it comes to some of these budget type options and how to get them to function as well as, like, I don't know, like a SIG or like a CMMG. We do talk about how to make these things more reliable. Function is the aim. So, all right.
I think this will be kind of the last result. I just want to see, I did have some 223 with me, and so this is the PMC, and this is in 223, so yeah, less kind of explosive pressure, I guess, than a 5.56. And so I want to see if that has anything to do with anything at all. I don't suspect it will, since it's been running flawlessly now, but I always like to check those things out. So we'll do that, then we'll call it a day. All right, kind of final thoughts on this. Definitely Palmetto. You know, when we buy a kit, we do expect it to work. When we buy a kit, you know, for the upper combined with the internals of the lower, like, we just suspect that it's going to work the first time and that we don't have to fuss around with all this stuff. The lower, again, is Palmetto lower. It was just a strip lower, and then you get all the parts that go along with it, and you just expect it to work. It did not. That was kind of disappointing. I feel like for a new shooter that encounters something like this, it would be very anticlimactic. You go to the range, you're like, yeah, I got this new firearm, maybe your buddies are with you, whatever, and it's just malfunctioning. You're not even getting a shot off because it's just not activating the primer. On the other end of that, I guess it could be profitable for some, like it was with me. I mean, it got me into a lot of this stuff, figuring out, you know, malfunctions and that. But I suspect for the average person, this would not be a fun time. So here's what I suggest. If you are going to purchase Palmetto strip lower and then get the internals for it, just get a better trigger. Just get a better trigger along with that, because it's not going to function properly 100% of the time. And so if you want reliability, if you want your firearm to function the way that it should right out the gate, and you are willing to build instead of getting one already completely assembled, because here's the thing too, if you get a completely assembled AR type firearm from a manufacturer, really any manufacturer, they're going to test it. They're going to make sure that it operates properly. They're a company that kind of cares about their reputation in some way. And so I do believe if you got a fully assembled Palmetto PSA AR-15, you probably wouldn't run into any of this. They're going to test it out and see what's going on with it. With that said, when you buy a kit, you kind of expect the same result. So if you're going the route I did, where you get the upper and the internals of the lower, and then you go ahead and get a strip lower, just get a better trigger. It's going to save you a lot of headache.